Hi, in this segment of Digital Classroom, we're going to cover the gear I use to cover a wedding day. Start off by the bag. I love Think Tank products. This is the Think Tank Airport Security. It's a little bit larger than the normal one I use, which is the Think Tank International. Whenever I do any type of travel or destination, I use that bag just because it's smaller and it doesn't draw any attention. So let's dig into the gear that I'm going to use. We'll start off with the cameras, right? I believe in shooting with two pro grade, happen to be digital, could be film, whatever your choice may be, but I'm all digital, but SLRs. So I'm using Canon 1DXs. They're full frame, so my lenses are true to what their focal lengths are. Other Canon bodies have different size sensors. So this is a full frame sensor, and there's an APS-C, and then there's even a different APS. So the magnification goes from full frame to 1.3 to 1.7. And that's a magnification factor on your lenses. I love the full frame. The 1DX has been a great camera. Nikon, they also make great cameras as well. It's kind of like PC, Mac, whichever you prefer, whichever agrees with your creativity. I'm a visual artist, and these are the tools that I use to do that. One thing I want to start off with are the basics, right? You have your two bodies. It's really important when shooting weddings, especially if you're using two cameras and using two photographers, and that is to time sync your cameras. And what I mean by time sync is we're going to set the clocks to be identical. The reason being is your day is going to fall into chronological order. So it doesn't matter if I'm shooting with two cameras, four cameras, three photographers, six cameras. We all time sync so the clocks are set identically. So on the back end, when you're editing, all your images are going to fall right in alignment. If one camera is off by even 30 seconds, it can really play havoc when you're editing. Let's say the kiss, for example, at the end of the ceremony. We now pronounce you man and wife. And you have this whole sequence. I'm photographing tight. My second shooter is getting an overall shot, and her camera is, let's say, 30 seconds off. I got the kiss, and I'm looking through all the images, and there's kiss, kiss, kiss. There's the wide shot, and they're walking down the aisle. Well, that's going to throw me off and take time on the back end in editing to have to get that image into proper sequence. By setting the clocks to be the same, we avoid that issue. So we just go to the clock in the camera, its date and time, and then we set the correct month, day, year, hour, minute, and second. And then on the count of three, we all hit OK, and we're time synced. You could even do this remotely. Oftentimes I'll meet up with photographers if we're shooting a wedding destination, and we'll get to the local time zone that we're in, and we'll pull out our iPhones and match the clocks to the second to your iPhone. That's tied into the world clock. So you want all your cameras to be time synced. Next thing you want to do is format all of your CF cards. And it's a great idea that at least once a month you do a hard format in your computer. What I mean by that is erase them completely. Even though you format your media in camera, the images are still there. You can run recovery software. It doesn't write over that image until you fill up the card as you shoot. Even though it's formatted, it's still there. Where if you do a hard erase once a month, you're going to eliminate any corrupt files, any hang-up data, any challenges that could cause a card to become corrupted. I always believe in protecting the shoot. My cameras all have a space for two media slots. Thereby, I'm already backing up the shoot in camera. I've always believed in that. So I shoot RAW to one CF card and JPEG to a second CF card. Other cameras I've used will have a CF card and an SD card. And by choosing to not do RAW, I have two different formats, two different media, thereby ensuring the shoot. So I also believe in nailing your exposure, color, white balance, everything in camera, because many times on the weddings that we're shooting, I hand off the JPEGs the very next day for publication. So I could take my JPEGs right out of camera on that card, download it relatively quickly, pick my favorite images, and give them to the publication. If they're raw, it's like having a negative. We have to process all those images out, and I'd never be able to make an immediate deadline. About being organized, have your CF cards. I know that these are all ready to go because I formatted them the night before. This is that foundation I was talking about. And as I shoot, I turn the card upside down and place it in here. So visually, I can whip this wallet open really quickly and know that card's been photographed on. I don't have to worry, did I format it? Did I not? Is it shot? Was it? I'm at peace of mind. I take that card out that's been photographed on, I put it in upside down, and I put a new one into the camera. And because I format them all ahead of time, I'm not worried that there's going to be images on there. All right, so let's go through lenses. 24 to 70, medium zoom lens. All my lenses are 2.8 or faster and a constant aperture. Oftentimes I shoot in low light, available light, or if I just want to shoot wide open, I love the 2.8 lenses or faster. I have a wide angle zoom, a 16 to 35, 2.8. I have a 70 to 200 IS, also a 2.8. I always carry a 1.4 teleconverter, being that these are both full frame cameras. If I want to bring that image in just a little bit closer, like during the ceremony when they're exchanging the rings, I'll use a 1.4 converter, thereby making a 70 to 200 like a 320. And oftentimes I'll bring my Mark IV with, which has a crop factor of 1.3, thereby almost making this a 400 millimeter lens. Macro lens, invaluable for the detail shots, for the rings, the jewelry, the close-ups. It's a great all-around lens. It's a 100 millimeter macro with IS. And that rounds out my lenses. Many times I'll augment it with some primes. But these lenses have been so sharp, so dynamic, that it lightens the load and I could shoot all day with this. I still carry a handheld light meter. You may say, why? You have live view and all these other great tools at your disposal with your cameras. Handheld light meter is still indispensable. I was photographing at the modern wing of the Art Institute in Chicago. Extremely bright white, extremely bright window light coming in. It could take you a long time to find your exposure by using the camera, by using the live view mode, or by trying to take a picture and look to confirm. That doesn't inspire confidence in your subjects. Going old school, set your ISO. I put the meter right near the subject, click it, that gives me the exact light that is falling on the subject. It's not reflected light. So it doesn't matter if it's all white around me and there's a black tux or all white in a white dress. This is going to give me an accurate starting point for exposure. Many times I still use my handheld light meter. Right tool for the right job. So that's in my bag. Of course, I don't leave home without a few speed lights. These are the Canon 600EX RT. RT means radio transmission. So they have the ability to communicate wirelessly and all be controlled from a master device or on camera without the need of an auxiliary piece to command them. Now, I'm just going to say one thing about the 600EX RTs. They are great, but they do communicate at 2.4 gigahertz. What's to note about that is there's a lot of traffic at 2.4 gigahertz. 95% of the time, they work flawlessly. That other 5% of the time, when you're in an environment where there's a lot of Wi-Fi, wireless microphones, cell phone activity, it could play havoc with your communication, thereby rendering you without your capability to control them with off-camera flash. So I still use a backup to this. One of my core values is always being prepared. So by having a radio transmitter with this, you could plug it in old school with a PC, it could be a Pocket Wizard. I still use my Radio Popper PXs. Put these back in optical mode. I have my Radio Popper backup, which communicates at 900 megahertz. I know I'm getting a little bit technical on all this stuff, but understanding how it works allows me to walk into an environment and not get nervous and freak out when things aren't working. So immediately when I find that these are not communicating properly, I go to the Radio Poppers, which is at 900 megahertz, which no longer has any traffic down there. They're all alone on the highway, so to speak. There's no issue with communication. So I always have a backup in place. So I don't leave home now without 5 speed lights. I also have 2 STE3 speedlight transmitters. So when I'm shooting, as you'll see later in this digital classroom, is oftentimes I will just have the commander, the STE3 speedlight transmitter in the hot shoe. Thereby I don't need another speedlight here. I like to be as small and lightweight as possible. So many times I will shoot with 2 speedlight transmitters and have all 5 speedlights out working for me. While we're on the subject of speedlights, let's talk about battery packs. For all my off-camera speedlights, I set up a triangle of light and thereby put the auxiliary battery packs out there so I could keep shooting and not worry about recycle time. Speaking of batteries, it's very important that you have a high capacity, and I believe in rechargeable batteries. These are PowerX batteries by Maha. They're 2,500 milliamps. They're a high capacity and they'll deliver and do the job. They don't have a long shelf life, so I charge them before every shoot and I'm ready to go. That way I get good recycle time. What else do I have in my camera bag? Really, really important for me, earplugs. The band gets loud. Also, I have a backup of all my settings. You can back up all your functions and custom settings in your camera. My cameras are so personalized to me with my personal settings that if I got one out of the box, it would throw me off. So I have settings for my 1D Mark IV, and I have settings for 1DX. Let's say I'm on a destination shoot in New York City and my 1DX goes down. I could rent one that day, and I could pop in my settings, always be prepared, and have my camera back to the way I want it. So that's something to look into with your cameras, have your settings backed up. And then also I have plenty of gels. So these are by Rogue. And within this gel kit, you have tons of color correcting and creative type gels. The one gel that I use the most of is Correct to Orange. So I filter my speed lights to match the light in the environment. Remember I said I'm an available light photographer? I use all the light available to me. This way here I can do it without having a color shift. And we're going to dig deeper into that in our shoots. So let me set the filters aside. And I have one other filter that I use. And this is for outside lighting. It's called a neutral density filter. And this is a variable neutral density filter. It gives me an 8-stop range. I don't know if you can see me through there, but you can really cut down the ambient light. It's like sunglasses for your camera. So the reason being is at times I use high-speed flash sync. Other times I use the ND filter. And we're going to discuss in detail when to use what. And if you're really interested in this, you can see my other digital classroom, which is all about lighting. But this is another tool that's great to have. This cuts down your ambient so you can remain at sync speed and get the max output from your speed lights. All right, that's my camera bag. We're going to cut away and we're going to dig into my rolling grip bag with all my lighting gear. During the shoot of the wedding, do I lock this bag? You betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha. I don't care. Like I was just at the Peninsula Hotel, and I put the bag in the kitchen, and that's why I love these bags. Not only does it lock shut, I got my combination set right.
What's the brand name of the bag?
These are Think Tank, and they're the only ones I know of that have all of the locking capabilities, and they have a security bag. But we lock the bag this way, so it's locked so nobody can get in, and all you need is a deterrent. But even when I travel, it has a cable lock in it as well. So if I'm going out and I'm in a hotel, I'll lock this to the plumbing. If I'm at a hotel, I'll lock it to a railing at a shoot, but my bag is always secure. I've been with photographers it doesn't necessarily have to be in a bad location or a bad venue, and someone walked off with their bag just because they can grab it and roll away with it. So, you have thousands of dollars worth of gear, secure it.
For destination weddings, have you ever had an issue with a really small plane not letting you fit the bag in your kind of compartment? Or
So for destination weddings, that's one of the reasons that I use the Think Tank Airport International. It's smaller and it meets all the international flight requirements. Now there are times where you have to check it when you're on a regional jet. Even then, if you really want to challenge the flight attendant, you can say, see, it will fit underneath the seat, but you got to set your feet on top of it. And there have been times internationally where I was asked to check the Think Tank International, but that was only in Eastern Europe. And when I had to check it, I put the speed lights in my backpack and I put all the lenses on the cameras, and they checked an empty bag. They actually checked it with the battery packs, but that was it. But I am never separated from my gear. I can buy clothes, I can get a new toothbrush. I can't hit the ground for a destination event and not be able to shoot. So I am never away from my gear. Regional jets I'm not worried about because you can see it going on, you can see it coming off. And the Think Tanks are a real sturdy bag. I even had mine fall once off the conveyor and everything was fine. But I even carried gels for videographers because oftentimes they'll have that LED light and it's blue, and if you're in a reception setting, all the available light is tungsten based. So if I'm gelled for tungsten and I'm shooting in Kelvin, let's say 3200, 3000 degrees, he comes in with that daylight balanced light, he's going to paint the bride's dress blue. So if they don't have a tungsten filter to go over that, I will lend him some gel that I already have in my bag cut to fit, like 4 inches by 4 inches.
Wow.
That way there we all match.
Do you take backup for your lenses?
Do I take backup for my lenses? Well, what would I need to back up?
When you,
This has 70, this has 70.
but I mean, in case something goes bad, you just deal with it?
I can still shoot with any one of these lenses going down.
Okay.
Nothing would throw me off. The only time I bring an exact duplicate of gear is if I'm doing a super high-end event, meaning a celebrity wedding where they've paid or received payment to publish their images. Like when we did Eva Longoria's wedding, or we just did the Bachelorette's wedding, I have this primary set of gear that's with me, and I still have all my Series 1 70 to 200 I didn't get rid of. So I have a Series 1 24 to 70, I have a Series 1 16 to 35, I have a Mark III, I have 2 Mark IVs, I have 580 speed lights. That goes in to a Pelican case and gets shipped. So if this all blew up, I can just reach into my bag and keep on shooting. Even, we'll call them local weddings. Saturday's wedding, I brought my Mark IVs and all my prime lenses because I'll oftentimes set up 2 remote cameras to shoot. And I run a interval timer, not only for time lapse, but what if you're shooting a wedding and you're the 2 photographers are at the wedding and you want to get that overall shot as the bride walks down the balcony. I just put a camera up there on a tripod, set the interval timer every 3 seconds to go off so we could both be down on the main floor shooting and we still have the overhead shot. My background's in journalism, so I've shot a lot of remote stuff, cameras behind the backboards, things like that, so I still approach weddings that way. If it's a wedding that has a wedding cover, like a Jewish wedding has a huppah, I'll put a huppah camera up there. I'm really intrigued now about the GoPros because now the GoPro 3 Black Edition has, 12 megapixel files. So I'm anxious to see how they would look because they're a lot smaller and easier to mount remotely than a digital SLR. A lot easier to travel. All right, let's dig into my rolling grip bag, we'll call it. This is a Lightwear rolling light stand bag. And it's been a great investment. It's been shipped all around the world, and it takes a licking and keeps on ticking, so to speak. So this comes with me on every wedding, so I could set up my lighting. So we'll dive into this. This is something that I don't take to every wedding, but it's a great tool to have for many different reasons. It can be used to shade people. It could be used to create even light. It could be used to shoot through and create stunning light. But I do use it quite frequently. It's a 7-foot shoot through, hello, parabolic umbrella. Or you could use it to actually soften the light if you're in harsh daylight. The light coming through this is gorgeous, eliminating the harsh shadows. And I'm going to show how I would use this today. I pretty much use this a ton on engagement sessions, not too much on wedding day because it's a lot to manage on a wedding day. But everything is about convenience. This is a Westcott parabolic shoot-through umbrella, and it's all about quality of light. Next thing I have are the light spheres, and I like the universal cloud. They're easy to put on and off. These are key for me to use my triangle of light, and they're also pretty much my go-to light modifier. Light stands. You can use whatever light stand is convenient, but use light stands. Get that flash off camera, create depth. I have 3 of them, and we'll put them around the room, and we'll get into the triangle of light during the reception portion of Digital Classroom. Good, sturdy, solid tripod, invaluable. You have that for time-lapse, night, any type of image. Again, I don't want to arrive on the scene and say, wish I had a tripod. I could do this long, cool exterior exposure at twilight and get the light streaking in front of the property. I don't want to arrive at the scene and say, what if? So again, I have 3 light stands in here. And let me just put these away to get it out, stay clean, so to speak. And other light modifiers that I have. This is called a triple threat by IDC Photo, and you could get it at Westcott as well. And this is just a simple umbrella adapter. So I use the triple threat if I'm using speed lights outside and I want to use high-speed sync, which we'll get into. Thereby, I can put 3 speed lights on here, and they will act as one. Very efficient. I have Rogue grids for my speed lights. So it has a gel kit. It has a grid holder. And what it does is it has 2 discs. So within the grid holder, I have a 40-degree grid and a 25-degree grid, and combining them creates 16 degrees. So if I wanted to just create that spotlight effect on the eyes, or if I'm photographing details such as the ring, I will oftentimes use grids. Or if I'm doing a backlit shot and I really want to control that spread of light, I'll use a grid. Also use Rogue flash benders, right? Oh, by the way, always put identification in your bags when you ship them. So if your bag gets separated from you, you can get it back. Again, more gels, both a color correcting kit from Rogue and a creative lighting kit. Flash benders are great, not only for bouncing light, but for creating a snoot to give your light a longer spotlight effect for a longer throw. And they also make great gobos. So if I want to block light and light a background up and do a high key setting on location, I will use flash benders. Roller tape. What can we say? Duct tape. 1,000,001 uses. Rubber bands. Bungee balls. Never know when you need to strap something down. And here's my backups. So I have my backup radio poppers. Don't leave home without them. As I said, one of my core values is always be prepared. So I am prepared if I'm in a scenario where something's wreaking havoc with the 600 XRTs. That's for my interval timer. So like Mama says, always put your toys away so you know right where they are. So I organize my bag the same way all the time. So in the heat of a shoot, I know what pocket to go to for what. And I don't have to think about it. So everything is back in this side pocket. On the other side, I keep my larger light modifiers. I have a perfect pair lighting kit with Westcott, which includes the Halo. The Halo is a shoot-through umbrella. And what's unique, and I love about the Halo and Apollo products, is they're all based off an umbrella shaft. So setup is quick and easy. But what is great about the Halo is not only the quality of light, but how efficiently it uses light. And I'll share this with you. So it has a backing on it. This is crucial if you're using speed lights, small portable light. Because if you're shooting through the umbrella, as light hits the surface, it's going to reflect back. The interior of the halo is all silver. So you can use this multiple ways. We can still shoot through, and it's going to capture all that energy and just still bounce it out. So we have nice specularity with the flash head facing forward. Now, if I want ultimate diffusion and softer light, I can turn the flash head inside reverse. So it's bouncing off the silver interior, thereby coming out more diffused, less specularity out the front. So I use this for all of my portraits, group portraits and formals if I have time to set that up. That's the halo. And I have two halos so that they match. And then I also have, within our perfect pair, the Apollo. The Apollo is, again, umbrella shaft-based medium softbox. Now here you can really see the interior has the silver for specularity, and you could use it the exact same way. So on the light stand, we would close our panels. We can use it with or without diffusion, which we'll get into later. You can reflect the flash into it or put the flash toward the back and shoot direct out, depending on the type of light you want. More specular, flash facing outward. More diffused, flash facing inward. And a softbox, just by its very nature, is far more directional than the halo because it has a hard edge. So if I want to do masculine lighting, I can use the softbox. And I also have a grid for this. So if I really want to control the spread of light, I will put a grid on the front of the softbox. All right, pack that up. So we're ready to go. And we'll go photograph a bride getting ready. Sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. Before we go photograph the bride getting ready, I forgot to explain that I sometimes augment my speed lights with other type of lighting. So I bring more output, so to speak. So I love the Quantum Q flash, which I use because they are 150 watt seconds of light. You want more wattage in the cottage for those formals. So I will use the Halos and Apollos with these bad boys. They're 150 watt seconds. They're radio controlled. Yes, I can evenly dedicate them to the Canon by using the radio poppers by using a Q Nexus module. But right now this has the Quantum free X-Wire radio receiver on them. So the head itself has a larger flash tube, has a turbo battery, and the flash tubes in these guys are industrial strength. So you could bang away at them, and they're 150 watt seconds. So I'll set up where I'm going to do the formal portraits with these lights way ahead of time in the day, leave them set up, and then go set up the reception or the prep by using my Canon speed lights. These I can shoot f8 all day long, not worry about recycle time. Speed lights, you'd have to go to a higher ISO in order to be shooting at f8 and above and get a good recycle time. So by using the Q5 flash and by using either the co-pilot or the pilot, it's a closed loop system with their free X-Wire. And these I generally shoot 99% of the time all manual because I want frame to frame to frame consistency for my portraits. If you're using ETTL with portraits, you're going to get shifts in your flash output depending on the reflectivity of your subjects, meaning if you're photographing the entire bridal party and it's all the groomsmen and the bride, you could get slightly overexposed images, thereby the black's not being black. What ETTL is doing is converting everything to 18% gray. So I know if I'm using ETTL, if I want black to be black, I use flash exposure compensation and cut down flash output. Let's just do it easier. Again, quit banging your head against the wall. Let's work smarter, not harder. Go all manual. Manual is your friend. Subjects aren't moving, lights aren't moving. Set your flash output. And you know what it is. If it's half power, 10 feet away, I can be shooting at f8 at 400 ISO through the halos with my Q flashes, and I have frame to frame to frame consistency. It saves you tons of time on the back end. So I use the big lights for the formals, and then we go from there. So let's, again, exit and go photograph that bride.